Summer is here, ladies and gentlemen, and the deals are aplenty. Hi, everyone. John Cimino here for the GERE Radio Network to let you know that if you shop Amazon at all for anything, please consider using our link instead of using Amazon.com. Our link is shopgear.com. That's shopgere.com. Very simple, very small. But what it does is when you type that into your URL browser, it'll redirect you right to Amazon, right to your account, and you do all of the Amazon purchases that you normally would. But the difference between using my link versus using the regular Amazon link is you tell Amazon that we at Gear Network referred you, and they give us a small commission of your purchases, which goes a very, very long way to help sustain the free podcasting and help us continue to upgrade the studio as needed to continue to provide this content. So very, very easy for you to do. You use Amazon anyways. Shopgear.com. Use that redirect link just once. It'll stick to your cookies. It'll stick to your history, and you won't have to even bother using it again. Just type the letter S after you use it once. Shopgear.com will pop up. Boom. Hit enter. You're good to go. You're at Amazon. You're doing your Amazon shopping. You're getting your free 30-day trial of Prime, which gives you shipping in 2 days or less if you don't have Prime. If you do have Prime, you're still getting the benefits of it, my babies. And you're doing it, and you're helping out this small business by doing what you normally do anyways. Thank you very much, by the way, for all of the patronage that you have given us over the years using shopgear.com and for the continued use of that link from all of us here at the Gear Radio Network.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Perez. You're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
And we welcome you to Better Live Than Dead, the podcast, as if it was like a musical, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This is episode 142, the NFL Preseason Cast. You can hear Better Live Than Dead on I don't even know what I was going to say. Excuse me, aptly so. You can hear Better Live Than Dead on betterlivethandead.com. iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify.
Change that verbiage.
YouTube.
It's not iTunes anymore.
And wherever you listen to
it's
podcasts.
Apple Podcasts.
It's Apple Podcasts?
Yes, they do away with iTunes.
You should have told me this months ago.
I did.
No, I never got that text message.
You're on listen to me. You're on that group, that Gear Network personalities group.
Oh.
And I posted it on there.
I didn't read it.
Twice.
I didn't read it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go on Facebook much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joining me in the flesh, not on the IndyCard Media Hotline, in the flesh.
In the flesh.
Feet away from me, John Cimino at the JC Money.
Episode 142, peoples.
And we're here with your dog.
And Maggie, the Gear Network mascot, who
She's
loves
great.
everybody but hates everybody at the same time.
She was terrified of me. I pet her with my left hand, then she came back and saw I had another hand, and I pet her with that hand, and now we're friends.
And now all of a sudden she, does the infamous butt scoot now after you pet her. So I'm guessing you passed along something to her.
Butt chugging.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we're here to talk about the National Football League. It is today.
You failed to mention. You said we're feet apart. We are, but we are at the Gear Network studios, but in the backyard.
I was going to say
poolside, my man.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I meant to say that. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's August 13th, Tuesday, 6:09 p.m. if you're keeping track at home. We're chatting about the National Football League, but first, before we jump into that, Better Live Than Dead, we are now an affiliate of Rise Supplements, a gym supplement brand based out of Buffalo, New York. Head over to Rise Sups, that's RYSESUPPS.com. Use the code RWOLFE9510 to receive 10% off of your order. Now, that being said, you can also go to betterlivethandead.com, click on the Rise link, click on the Amazon link.
Yes.
Either way.
Do that, please.
You're helping out the podcasts, and you're helping out yourself, too.
Helping out yourself.
Now,
Getting all buff on sups.
Jumping into the podcast here. Mm-hmm. We are in week 2 of the National Football League preseason. Talking points are definitely heating up, which means, John, it is our turn to take a spin on the hot take wagon.
Absolutely, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I did these predictions last month, well before the first preseason game hit, and certainly before the second preseason games hit. So my predictions, I gotta be honest, I don't remember half of them.
They're not bad. Let me just preface it by saying they're not bad.
Yes.
Jumping head first into our 3 big things here. First of the 3 big things, predicting the regular season. First off, the AFC. John, you've got Kansas City at 13-3, the number 1 seed. No surprise there. The 2nd seed,
Future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes.
That's fair. Interesting, at least, but yeah,
He's a future Hall of Famer.
Number 2 seed
that
in the
guy.
AFC, the New England Patriots, 13-3, also not surprising. The first surprise, John, not because that you have them in the playoffs, but because of the record you have chosen for them. The Indianapolis Colts, 13-3, 3rd seed. Do tell.
Well, okay, so breaking down the wall a little bit here, I'm sort of partial to the Indianapolis Colts just because of the fact that Peyton Manning provided me so many great memories there, and during many losing seasons with Jets football, especially to Brady, Belichick, and the Patriots, my comfort food was Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. So I found myself rooting for the Colts, but also historically, the Colts franchise being in Baltimore and Johnny Unitas and what he's meant to the league and things like that. And, of course, the fact that, the Colts lost Super Bowl III to the Jets. I don't know. I've always had like a soft spot for the Colts. So part of it is some kind of bias. The other part of it is they play in a division with the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars, they were good 2 years ago with Blake Bortles. Then they were pretty bad last year. And now they have Nick Foles this year, but I don't know that that's quite going to get them over the hump because Doug Marrone's Doug Marrone. So that's part of it. The other part of it is Andrew Luck. Now, when I did this prediction thing, I was going based off of my vision on how the teams performed last year and kind of took some of their moves that, some were well known, some are not well known or whatever, and kind of factored all that into there and just kind of guessed, really. And then you tell me today, just an hour before we took air, that Andrew Luck has my dog. Juvenile. My dog's pooping, ladies and gentlemen, and doing her butt walk while she does it. And I don't know why. It makes me laugh every single time because I'm 10. But you told me about Andrew Luck's shoulder or whatever.
His ankle. It's called the
ankle.
OS trignum, Trignom. They say here that if surgery is required, it's 4 to 6 weeks recovery. They say it's a lot of people don't have it. About 10% of people have this little bone, and then in their ankle. And apparently, an old Colts lineman, Ryan Deem, I believe is how you say his last name, said he had it happen. He said they originally thought that he was about to tear his Achilles. They went in and pulled the bone out, and it was perfectly fine. So they said it's like when the bone, a piece of your tissue grows bone or whatever, but the it's just a small part of the back of your ankle, I guess. And Andrew Luck is apparently dealing with that, but they say it's incredibly painful, which would make sense with all the news that they've been talking about, how they said it was a calf strain and it hasn't gotten any better, all that, blah, 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 whatever. But, I mean, I could understand.
I guess what I'm getting at with the Colts, I'm sorry to interrupt there, is that we saw the play of the Indianapolis Colts the year that Andrew Luck was out. And then when Andrew Luck came back last year, you saw how that team rallied around him and how his genuine appreciation for the game and not being sure he was going to play because of that shoulder injury. And you saw how the team rallied around him, and he's a damn good quarterback. He really is a damn good quarterback.
They definitely started off real bad last year, but once they got rolling, they were hard to stop.
They were unbelievable.
They've got one of the best offensive lines in the league. Their defense is coming around. I mean, they were a lot of fun to watch late last year, and I honestly think if they can pick up where they left off, and one of the big X factors, can Andrew Luck stay healthy? They're putting weapons around him. They should be very good.
But not only that too, and as this thought came to me as you were talking there, and I'm bringing up their schedule right now. But I don't think that their schedule is unfavorable to them. I'm bringing that up right now, so if you will bear with me with that.
Hey, if nothing else, we'd love to not prepare for the podcast.
Oh, of course. They've got. So yeah, I'm looking at this schedule right here. They've got the Chargers week 1, which could be that could go either way. It
That'd
depends
be a
on
slobber
which,
knocker.
it depends on which Chargers team you get. They've got the Titans, which Titans are terrible. They've got the Falcons. Are they the Falcons Blue 28-3 lead Falcons, or are they the MVP Matt Ryan Dirty Birds? You know what I mean? They've got the Raiders. They're a mess. They've got the Chiefs. That's a loss. Sorry, future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes. The Texans. Deshaun Watson. How is he going to do the Jadeveon Clowney situation where we just talked about where we talked about before the air, or maybe it was on Twitter or something. I don't know. Jadeveon Clowney is being shopped around as we speak. So there's that. The Broncos, they're terrible. The Steelers, who knows? The Dolphins, terrible. Jaguars, not great. Texans, again, see earlier. Titans again. Buccaneers. The Saints, the Panthers, and the Jaguars. I mean,
there's at least, you could say that if they lose to the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Saints, I could see that.
The Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Saints. That's
they'll probably split with Houston.
They
but
might.
Aside from that, it's
I would say anywhere between or a range between 3 and 5 losses, maybe 5 losses.
Yeah,
but I at very least 3, and that would be losses to really good teams like the Chiefs and Saints, or teams that are just on the cusp of that, like the Chargers. But otherwise, going down this list here, weeks 1 to 17, it's not. To me, it doesn't look like they're, especially the Dolphins game at the 10th. The Dolphins are not a
terrible.
good team.
We'll talk about them shortly.
So, I mean, that's kind of where I base that now that I'm looking at it again, and I'm feeling confident again about my picks. So.
And looking through the rest of the AFC, you've got the Cleveland Browns 4 seed at 12-4, which, again, I think that they'll be just fine with that. The 5th seed, the Los Angeles Chargers. Essentially, whoever doesn't win the AFC West will get this position. Mm-hmm. You have them 11-5, and then you also have the New York Jets going 11-5. Do you want to give us a quick look into that thought?
Well, again,
aside from the fact that you like the Jets.
Well, aside from the fact that I like the Jets, and I'm putting that aside right now because the plain and simple fact that the Jets have a schedule of winnable games. They are a weird team. They are definitely a much improved team on paper from the team that played last year. They beefed up their offensive line. They got the addition of Le'Veon Bell, whom still hasn't played as of recording, has still not played in the preseason yet, so it's been quite some time since he's actually taken on-field action, and I'm very cognizant of that. And then they did well in the draft. They drafted Quinnen Williams and Jamal Adams on defense, a big cat on there as well. The only issue that I see now, based on the time that I made this prediction until today, is that they had a couple of their corners go down. So throwing against them to wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 could be a challenge for however long the corners are out. Also, Chandler Cannizzaro was missing kicks left and right, both in practice and in the preseason week 1. He's now retired, so kicking might be an issue. But if the Jets don't go Jets, if they don't do Jetsy things like they have been known to do, it is a lot to ask. They have some very winnable games, both against the Dolphins. I could see them winning easily. Against the Giants, I could see them winning easily. The Redskins, the Raiders, again, the Raiders, who knows what Raiders we're going to get with them. They've been a mess. I honestly, that's a very winnable game. The Bengals, I could see them splitting with Buffalo. Cleveland, they tend to, despite whatever team Cleveland plays now, the Jets have historically had Cleveland's number. So I'm fanboying it with that. The Cowboys, I don't like the Cowboys, so
that's fair.
I would give the Cowboys an 0-16 season if I could.
Remind me about the Cowboys. I want to ask you about them when we get to the NFC.
Sure,
for sure.
So I think that they have a strength of schedule that's favorable for them to at least get the wild card. They're not going to win the division. That is the Patriots to lose, unless Tom Brady goes down with an injury and whatever.
Exactly.
The East is the Patriots division to win. I see both the Jets and the Bills as having improved from last year's campaign. I don't know that the Bills have done enough. The Jets have surely added a lot more, and I think that puts them over the home. Because I was back and forth, honestly, with the wild card between the Jets and the Bills. And
That's fair.
And when I did the schedule prediction, it just turned out that the Jets had the better records.
And I'll run through my AFC quick here too. I've got the Patriots at 13-3, number 1. The Chargers at 13-3, 2. Might be Phillip Rivers' best and final chance to make the Super Bowl.
I don't disagree,
especially if Melvin Gordon comes back. I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers bouncing back at 12-4. This one kind of for me, in a nutshell, was I don't think they can't be as mediocre as they were last year. Plus, like you said, John, it's one of those situations where you look at their schedule and you kind of just go, they could probably pull out 11 games easily. 12 games, like I said, is what I have them at.
Say what you want about the guy, Ben Roethlisberger. He
finds ways to win games.
He does. And Juju Smith-Schuster now moving to that number 1 wide receiver role with the departure of Antonio Brown. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think with that I don't see the AFC North as having both a division winner and a wild card. I see it as division winner only.
That's fair.
And like for me, I picked the Cleveland Browns, but it would not surprise me if the Steelers overtook the Browns.
See, for me, what I did was I have the Colts 11-5, fourth, 5 Cleveland Browns 12-4, and 6 Chiefs at 11-5. I put the Chiefs down a little just because I feel like last season with the Chiefs in the regular season, everything went right. Mahomes was getting everything. The offense was gelling. The defense.
You have to address him as future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my God!
When you are in my listen.
Oh my God!
I don't own. I don't. There's going to be. I'm going to tell you right now. By the end of this football season, I will own 2 football jerseys of players not on the team that I regularly root for. I will own a Buffalo Bills jersey. I'm not sure if it's going to be Josh Allen or not. Probably will be because I like Josh Allen. But the other one's going to be Patrick Mahomes.
That's fair.
I'm getting
Hey,
my
Patrick Mahomes
jersey.
could have been a Buffalo Bill. Don't ever forget that.
Yeah.
Don't ever get it twisted.
Bills fans will not let you forget that either.
And this is something that we can also share over at the Facebook, GearNetwork.com, all that stuff. We can share our individual breakdowns because we were able to, the website we found, I can't remember the name of it right now. I do apologize. But we were able to break down and essentially predict every single game. I think it's they play 256 games in the season or something like that. So all regular season 256.
But the way
games.
they broke it down for you, it's not terrible.
It's wild too because if you go team by team, it's a lot quicker. It doesn't feel like you're being slowly killed. But for me, I had the Bills going 10-6. I think they have to. I've said this on Trust the Podcast, the most recent episode with Nate GERE. You can hear it over at betterlivethandead.com, wherever you get your podcasts,
and Apple Podcasts.
Cheap
That's
plug.
Right.
I said that, a lot of things have to go right for the Bills, but the Bills have to get off to a hot start. And if they go into their bye, if they go in and they're 5-1, 4-2, that'll be great because the back half of their season is very difficult. So even with that being said, I still have them finishing 10-6. I mean, they could easily eke out a win here. They could go beat Cleveland in Cleveland and make the playoffs or something like that, or beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving again and make the playoffs. But at this point in time, I think 9-7, 10-6, probably right for the Bills. But I think the AFC, I think the NFC, as we'll talk about in just a moment, will be more difficult than the AFC will be.
Yes.
But I think essentially, in a nutshell, the National Football League this year, there's going to be very good teams, there's going to be very bad teams, and there will be very few teams in between.
I just realized this as I'm looking at here, and I know you're talking AFC. I'm looking at the Bills schedule right now, and they coming right out the gate.
I believe they could go 4-1.
They could very easily 1, 2, 3, 1, 4, 5. They could easily be 5-1 by the time they get to the Eagles,
and they have to be. If they want to make the playoffs, they have to be.
Exactly.
If the Bills start out,
I don't want to say they could easily be 5-1 because as fanboy of the Jets as I am, I have no idea what Jets team they'll split. Going to see.
I figured my thought process was they always split with. They're more than likely to split with the Jets and the Dolphins.
Right. But coming off because they're playing, the 2 games with the Jets and the Bills are sandwiched.
Yeah, best case scenario they go 5-1. Worst case scenario, honestly, you're looking at 3-2.
It could
because if they're 2-3 out of that stretch where they play. I mean, I know you're a Jets guy. I know you say you don't know what Jets team they'll get, but from my perspective, pulling out and just looking back at it, you think about it. Out of those 6 games, 5 of them are winnable. I mean, every game's winnable. Obviously, I get that, but the Bills have beaten the Patriots 3 times in 17 years.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not going to pin my hat on it, but And
now as I look at the later portion of their schedule, oof.
They got to gather wins early.
They do, because they have the Cowboys.
If nothing else, so they can kind of roll downhill. Because if they go 5-1, for instance, and you say, okay, 10 wins are going to put you in the playoffs, you literally have to go 5-5 your last 10 games.
Now they have the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, week 13, which they're a mess right now. So maybe, you never know if they get it right. They'll have the Ravens following that, which could possibly, it depends on Lamar Jackson.
It could be, but the thing is we could talk about that real quick.
Then Steelers, Patriots, Jets.
Will teams figure out Lamar Jackson? Because they're going to build a specific offense.
I feel like they will.
I feel like it too, but the one thing I think about is that it's going to be a Greg Roman-led offense. And the one guy who Greg Roman had great success in San Francisco with Colin Kaepernick. He had success in Buffalo with Tyrod Taylor before being fired. Now he's got another guy who can run the ball, throw the ball.
Right, but the thing about that is that, I mean, how many quarterbacks that are run-heavy kind of quarterbacks typically last? If Lamar Jackson, I'm sorry,
he probably won't.
And that's the thing, is that the league is quick in figuring out those kinds of things. That's part of the reason why Tim Tebow is not playing in anymore. They figured out his game. His game was run heavy and dink and dunk.
I mean, you can put 8 guys in the box. They'll get to the point where they put 8 guys in the box and say, you're going to beat us with your arm.
Right.
We're not going to respect the fact you can throw until you can show us.
Exactly. And that was kind of the thing with Michael Vick before his prison sentence, that he was a human cheat code. I'm not saying that to be funny. It's what happened.
They were talking about it I shared it over on the Gear Network Facebook page.
He was
on the Facebook group, where they were talking about how in Madden, that one season he was on the cover, almost all of his stats were 95 or higher.
He was absolutely a human cheat code. They had no idea how to figure him out until they did, and then he got hurt. And then he got busted for dogfighting, and then he got his prison sentence. But when he came back and he was backing up McNabb,
he was still good.
He was still good, but he also got better because he developed a pocket presence under Andy Reid, and was able to throw the ball, and that's why he was able to easily beat out Donovan McNabb for the job. Got McNabb out of there, and he was able to beat. What's that?
I said, isn't that wild to think about looking back on it?
It's crazy. It feels like it's just 2 years ago, but yet here it is.
Yeah.
And so Michael Vick was kind of an anomaly with that. Same thing with Warren Moon. Warren Moon was a scrambler. So was Randall Cunningham. He was a scrambler.
Yeah.
And that learned to throw. And Warren Moon had a very, very long and successful career. Same with Randall Cunningham. But then you have for all those, then you have the Vince Youngs, and you have the Tim Tebows, and you have the running type of quarterback that.
And I want to table this discussion for a little later, because I do have. We got to run through the NFC quick, which we can do.
And since we're outdoors, ladies and gentlemen, I have to.
I was going to say we're going to run through the NFC quick. I'm going to ask you about the Cowboys. Honestly, we'll just run down the NFC, because both our NFCs look pretty similar, except for one glaring omission that I want to ask you about, which I'm sure I'll know your answer. First off, in the NFC, you've got the Saints, 1 seed, 14-2, no surprise.
The omission is.
Rams 13-3, second seed, third seed Bears at 13-3, 4 seed Eagles 10-6, fifth seed Packers at 12-4, sixth seed Falcons at 11-5. Now over to my NFC. Rams 13-3, Saints 12-4, Cowboys 12-4, which they seem to be missing from John's top 6.
Spoiler: they're always going to be missing from my top 6.
We'll ask you about that in just a second, John. The fourth overall seed, or the fourth seed in the NFC, the Bears 12-4. I've got the Seahawks 12-4 and the Packers 12-4, and that would be 4, 5, 6 in the NFC. So, John, I know you don't like the Cowboys, so there's answer number 1, but I want to ask you less of about you and more of about the overall picture in the National Football League. A lot of people have, for some reason, predicted the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl this year.
I don't understand that at all.
And I don't know if it's because they were pleased with how Dak looked with Amari Cooper, because really,
when
aside
those 3 weeks that Amari Cooper was putting up numbers for them, like
honestly, aside from that, I don't know. I don't know what
the only
it would be.
ones the only ones that think that the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl every year is Cowboys fans. That's the only people.
Well,
and Jerry Jones.
I have seen a few publications. Actually, I saw one that I don't remember what it was.
There's always going to be
and
at
I'm
least
mad at
one.
myself.
There's always going to be one publication every year that thinks that Dallas does everything right every year in order to get to the Super Bowl. They're not going to win the Super Bowl.
Excuse me. They said Dallas over Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
Unreal.
Absolutely not. The Dallas Cowboys, and especially now with the turmoil that they have, like Dak Prescott wants a 40. Reportedly,
I don't think. I think $40 million, yes.
Reportedly.
But I wonder, because I was reading a little conspiracy theory into it, because I love that stuff. I love reading on the tweet bots. What if Dak wanted 30, they leaked 40, so when they give him like 32 or 33, he'll still get above market value, but they'll be like, well, he came back and the Cowboys win that deal.
Yeah,
something like that might happen.
That doesn't. I don't know. I suppose
they're talking. I mean, they're talking about potentially letting.
Hey,
yikes. They're talking about potentially letting Zeke Elliott walk.
Right. But that's the thing, and that's the stupid part, and that's what the Cowboys organization and the Cowboys fans that think, the Dallas Cowboys, every year is our year, we're going to get the Super Bowl, we do this. They haven't made the freaking Super Bowl in almost 20 years now at this point.
Well, the other thing too is if they let
over 20 years.
If they let Zeke Elliott walk and they invest in Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper, that's smart because obviously the National Football League is a quarterback-driven league.
That's investing in Dak Prescott. Yes, that is smart. Amari Cooper,
they don't have. Who else do they have?
Well, they don't have anybody because they gave up a first-round pick for him.
I mean, and then it became the guy who plays for the Jonathan Abram, the guy in Hard Knocks with the Raiders?
Yeah.
The guy who was kind of funny but also kind of annoying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Cowboys are doing their thing. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl by any.
Those of you that hear it right now, you hear the E in GERE Radio Network, the first E, not the second E. The second E stands for
Maggie's not participating.
But you hear her yelling in the background because we are in the back, ladies and gentlemen.
By the way, PlayoffPredictors.com.
Go ahead.
Shout out to them. That's the people that allowed us to do it.
But anyways, back to the Cowboys. 90% of the Cowboys' offense.
I was done with the Cowboys, but you're still
I'm still on it because you asked me a question. I didn't even get a chance to answer it because Emma over here interrupted me, and then you started talking about whatever the hell. But listen, so 90% of the Cowboys' offense is Ezekiel Elliott. That team is a different team. You can say whatever you want about Ezekiel Elliott's half shirts and his eating the soup and whatever and jumping into the Salvation Army bell thing or kettle thing or whatever the hell he does. You know, you could say all that and all of his off-field antics and things like that. You could say whatever you want about that, but the bottom line is when he is on that field, that is a different team. That is a different dynamic.
Oh, absolutely.
And Ezekiel Elliott opens up that opportunity for Dak Prescott to try and earn that reported $40 million. Without him there, that is a different team. That is a completely different team. Dak Prescott is the Hall of okay right now.
But can you? I don't even think. I think he's in the pantheon of modern day NFL. Okay to good.
When Eagles fans are setting up a GoFundMe to pay Dak Prescott $40 million to stay with the Cowboys,
there's a reason
that
why.
Tells you something.
I mean, I think
Ezekiel Elliott. If Zeke Elliott is on that field, Cowboys could possibly get a wild card. They're not winning the Super Bowl. I'm sorry to break it to you, Cowboys fans. Sorry, Lewis. I love you. I know you're probably thinking 16-0 and all the way. Not happening. The Cowboys are not making the playoffs, especially if Zeke Elliott is not on the field.
You look at what the Steelers did with James Conner and Le'Veon Bell. Not every team is that lucky where they can go out and pull a guy out. Like I talked to Shenny, a mutual friend of ours, who is a big Cowboys fan, and I said, the Cowboys probably think that they can pull the Le'Veon Bell situation where they let him walk and they draft a random guy from wherever and he'll become the next big thing. But it doesn't. I mean, Zeke Elliott has led the league in rushing the last 2 years. He's dynamic. He makes that offense another dimension.
He has close to 5,000 rushing yards in, what is it, I think 4 seasons now. I think, or maybe this is his 4th season. Okay, so and in the previous 3 seasons, he didn't play every single game. And he's got close to 5,000 yards rushing. And when a running back starts getting closer to that 10,000 yard mark, or gets to that 10,000 yard mark and past the 10,000 yard mark, that's when they start talking Hall of Fame for a running back. He's already halfway there, just about halfway there, with much less games played. You can't tell me that, Jerry Jones, I don't know what kind of hash he's on, but when he says, well, we don't need a rushing champion to win a Super Bowl, the Cowboys do.
Why did we sit here and talk about Zeke Elliott? I look him up on Twitter or on the internet, and the first thing I see is O.J. Simpson weighs in on an Ezekiel Elliott contract. Says I don't feel.
It's still weird that
I'm sorry, but I don't feel bad.
It's still weird to me that O.J. Simpson is on Twitter.
40 games, 4,048 rushing yards, 28 touchdowns for Ezekiel Elliott.
Right. So
he's led the league in rushing 2 out of the 3 years. Those 2 years he played 15 games each. Last year, obviously, with the suspension, or 2 years ago with the suspension, he rushed for 983 yards. But
he plays this. If he were playing this season, he would be over 5,000 yards, career rushing yards, in his rookie contract.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen very often.
Does not happen.
So it would still. I mean, excuse me. The Cowboys fans are delusional as is. The Cowboys organization, they're really messed up.
So road to Super Bowl 54 here. The second of 3 big things here this week. Brought to you.
I'd argue that the Cowboys talk was the second big thing.
Yeah, brought to you by this podcast. We want to shout out playoffpredictors.com, who allowed us to. We have their website. We found their website and spent a lot of time predicting a bunch of games. So in John's bracket, he's got Jets and Colts 6 versus 3, Chargers Browns 5-4, Packers Eagles 5-4, and then Bears Falcons 3-6. Moving on, John has Chiefs Jets with the Chiefs going over. Pats, Chargers with the Patriots going over, Saints, Packers with the Saints going over, and Rams, Bears with the Rams going over.
Complete rematch from last season.
Over in my bracket. Number 6, Chiefs against number 3, Steelers. Number 5, Browns versus number 4, Colts. 6, Packers versus 3, Cowboys. 4, Bears versus 5, Seahawks. I've got the Patriots facing the Chiefs, who beat the Steelers. The Chargers with the 2 seed facing the Browns. The Rams and the Packers, Saints and Bears. And in my Final Four, I've got the Chiefs and the Browns, Packers and the Saints.
Why do you have the Browns all the way at the Final Four?
I feel like there's going to be a team that surprises us.
And you think that the Browns... See, I think that everybody's expecting the Browns to go that far. I think the surprise is going to be that the Browns either are not going to make it past the wild card or not even make the playoffs.
I mean, granted, I have a team like the Packers, the 6th seed, which like I said, they're still pretty. I predict them to be pretty good next year, going to the NFC title game. So, I certainly think that a team like Green Bay could surprise, a team like Cleveland could surprise.
I would love if this is just a football fanboy and historian in me. I would love to see a Super Bowl I rematch. I would love to see Green Bay and Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And it hasn't happened. And
the one thing I think about the Browns going to the AFC title game is just because they're so young and they don't know any better. And I know that sounds so sports cliche, but it really is the truth. There are teams that just have never been there before and they don't really know better. So
at least you got them beating the Chargers. So yeah, that could be a possibility.
They ball out and have a good time with it. Mm-hmm. But Final Four for John. Chiefs and Patriots, he has the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Saints and Rams, he has the Saints in the Super Bowl. That's 1v1. In my bracket, I have also the Chiefs, the 6th seed, the Saints, the 2 seed, going to the Super Bowl 54. I don't know where it is this year. Is it in Tampa? Miami?
I don't know. I'll look it up. But anyways, I'll look it up. You talk about you talk about where you were going.
I've got the Saints winning the Super Bowl, and John has the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl.
Well, yes, future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes.
I could see it go either way, honestly.
I can do. Let's.
I think last year, if the Saints had won
you know what? I'm going to ask Siri. Hey, Siri.
I'm here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay. Where's the Super Bowl going to be played?
The Super Bowl will be played on the 2nd of February, 2020 at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida.
Dang.
Yes, and also, yes, I do have the Becky Lynch-like voice
Siri?
For Siri.
Would would her name be Sari?
Shut up, Brian.
Dang it. Third of 3 big things. Predicting award seasons. We rounded the stats appropriately, math style, using stats from fantasy.nfl.com. Looking at this just real quick, Carolina Panthers running back Christian McCaffrey, no surprise, projected to be the highest scoring fantasy player this year. He's projected roughly 1,090 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, and an astounding 88 receptions for 854 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, that dude is crazy.
The way they use him is the perfect way to use a Swiss Army knife type player, and I'm surprised a lot more teams don't try to do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, with the Buffalo Bills picking up a guy like Cole Beasley and having a guy like LaShawn McCoy in the backfield, or like Devin Singletary, who is drafted on his running ability, but also his catching ability as well, where you can dink and dunk, and essentially, it's the Tom Brady way of winning.
Yeah.
You have Julian Edelman. Okay, Brady can't throw the ball more than 25 yards, so you get guys who can throw 10-yard out routes, and they can just they excel in open space and just go. You know, that's how they do it. That's how they've remained successful, because you build a team around.
They might need to rely more on Christian McCaffrey this year, depending Cam Newton.
Absolutely. Looking at the MVP watch, 2 big names to watch. Both quarterbacks. One, according to John, a future Hall of Famer.
Patrick Mahomes.
He's my
homie.
Houston Texans.
Patrick, my homie.
Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, projected to be the best statistical quarterback this season. 4,151 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, also 642 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, these stats
But can he stay healthy?
Yes, these stats are from fantasy.nfl.com, so don't shoot the messenger here.
I feel like Patrick Mahomes, his season last year would have been Deshaun Watson the year before had Deshaun Watson not.
Well, here's the thing about Patrick Mahomes that I wanted to bring up, that I've been waiting to bring up. Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes projected 4,822 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, with 239 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So essentially, that is last year. Patrick Mahomes went off. Everything clicked. Everything went right. Every deep pass was caught. Every no look, every contested ball, everything went his way. So even if he takes a step back, which is projected this season by fantasy.nfl.com and projected by myself in the season predictions, season projections. That's what I'm looking for. I try to put predictions and projections together.
Tomato.
I just said dick, so either way, it's no surprise.
Yeah, whatever.
But
rice supplements, everybody.
even if he takes a step back, he's still projected to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yes, that's
wild.
crazy. I remember hearing comparisons like these when Peyton Manning was doing his thing, and Peyton Manning threw more than 50 touchdowns in a season, I think twice. Or no. I'm sorry, he did it once. But either way, when he threw for 49 touchdowns. The year that he broke, after the year he broke, Marino's record. I mean, they projected him to be a 30 to 35 touchdown, and that's still amazing. That's still amazing. You know,
even if he regresses back to the mean, his mean is still a lot higher than most.
Exactly,
most players.
Exactly.
So those are the 2 players to keep an eye out for the MVP watch. Now, looking ahead, we want to wrap up the podcast by taking a massive leap forward. We've already talked about the regular season. We've talked about the postseason. We've talked about the Super Bowl. What comes after the Super Bowl? The 2020 NFL Draft.
Yes.
It's wild that we're sitting here August of 2019, and we're going to fast forward to 2020. But the reason I do this is because Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus published his first mock draft on August 12th. And
that's amazing to me that anybody would publish a mock draft right now before the college season even begins.
As you hear my paper rustling here, Mike Renner of Pro Football Focus has Alabama quarterback Tua. Give me a second to try this one. Tagovailoa, I believe is how you pronounce it. Tua Tagovailoa. I watched a video of him pronouncing his name for probably 7 minutes today and tried to break it down and kept saying it. My coworker thought I was nuts. So Tua Tagovailoa, projected to go first overall to the Miami Dolphins, who are projected to try to tank. But I've got a feeling in my gut that if Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting at quarterback next year, you may not be drafting very high, because he plays good enough he's got a horseshoe shoved up somewhere, because he just finds a way to make it work.
It's the Ryan Fitzpatrick cycle. He starts, he plays well, he gets paid, he plays like crap, he gets cut.
Yeah, absolutely. But wherever he goes,
everywhere,
he ends up rising to the top. They always say the cream rises to the top.
Mm-hmm. So do you think Chosen Rosen sees the field at all?
I mean, he has to.
I would think he has to.
But then again, because I mean, you have to see what you have in him. But at this point, unless Brian Flores believes that Josh Rosen's his guy, which I can't think that that's the case, you got to go and get that guy number one overall. You got to hit your wagon to someone who has. I don't want to say Rosen doesn't have potential, but I mean his star has kind of diminished a little.
Well, a lot of that is due to Arizona.
Absolutely.
Arizona didn't do him any favors.
No, not at all. But like we saw in Arizona, they bring in a new coach, they go out and get their quarterback. Mm-hmm. They've got a new coach, go out and get their quarterback. Exactly. We've always it's show me a good quarterback, I'll show you a good head coach, or vice versa.
Which is going to make it interesting in Tampa this year with
absolutely
with Bruce Arians going.
A lot of people think there's a lot of rumors that who was it in the draft? I saw another mock draft that said a guy like Jake Fromm from Georgia could end up there.
I could see that.
Stuff like that. That's another guy I'm interested to see this year in college football.
Yes. Because
his star kind of diminished once they lost to LSU. He didn't look great. Mm-hmm. So if Jake Fromm has a good year, this mock draft didn't have him in the first round, which I think is crazy.
Wow.
They had a different quarterback going above him, which seems nuts. But Oregon Duck quarterback Justin Herbert projected to go second overall to the Cincinnati Bengals.
So you think the Dalton era? This person thinks the Dalton era is done in Cincy?
I think he's a free agent after this year.
You think they're going to let him walk?
He's not great. I mean,
he's not great, but he's not terrible.
He's statistically average, I believe. Let me look up Andy Dalton.
Buffalo will welcome
contract. Oh God, no, dude.
They will welcome him in a backup role? Yes, they absolutely will.
He would not sign a deal to be a backup. He would go, some team out there would drool over the fact of getting him. Yeah, he is under contract this year and next year. So he's got 1 year left after this.
Draft the kid.
But
let him sit. See if Dalton...
Oh, if they cut him, there's no dead cap if they cut him, from what I gather correctly.
After this season or
after this season, I guess. I don't know. I'd have to look into that a little more.
Okay.
But it doesn't look like there's dead cap, at least right now. But I purposefully didn't mention the third overall pick in this mock draft because they have the Buffalo Bills mocking third. So that's interesting. I think if the Bills pick third overall next year,
the process is not working.
Heads are going to roll for sure.
I would think that if the Bills are picking in the top 5 next year, the process needs to be reevaluated.
The one thing to look into that I want to keep people's eyes on, and again, we're not doing this to say, Tua's going to the Dolphins, Justin Herbert's going to the Bengals, this is what's going to happen. We're doing this to point out, because we'll probably keep an eye on it throughout the season, especially depending how the Jets do, how the Bills do, and how the Cowboys do. We'll keep an eye on the mock drafts here.
I'm intentionally trying to distract you here. Don't read it. Out loud, I should say. There we go. Okay. Carry on.
That's a good meme. The reason we point this out is because another thing to look into for this mock draft, as I've got a bug flying around me, 5 wide receivers projected to go in the first round. So this draft quite possibly could be one of the best wide receiver drafts we've seen in a long time. They've got Jerry Jeudy from Alabama going to Washington, Jalen Reagor from TCU going to Denver. Excuse me. Laviska Shenault from Colorado going to Jacksonville, CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma going to Green Bay, and T. Higgins from Clemson going to the Kansas City Chiefs. So, again, names to keep an eye on in the upcoming college football season. I'm sure we'll talk about them, talk more about football coming up here soon. With that being said, John, any closing thoughts?
The Dallas Cowboys are not going to win the Super Bowl. I swear, it's.
Well, I've got a hot take. I forgot to drop during the podcast.
You know what else too? The Miami Dolphins aren't going to win the Super Bowl either.
No.
Miami Dolphins fans are like Cowboys fans for the AFC.
One thing Nate GERE and I talked about in the last Trust the Podcast, and Nate kind of got lit up on Twitter about this, is that
he did.
Josh Allen needs to be. If Josh Allen is average, the Bills should be okay. They should win enough. And then someone said, you went from saying that Josh Allen needs to be the next coming of God to now he needs to just be average. That's not what he meant. That's not what I mean when I say it. It's a situation where the Bills' defense is good enough that if Josh Allen ends up being the 13th, 14th, or 15th best quarterback in the league statistically, the Bills should win 9, 10, 11 games. Because, again, we always talk about it, John, and I mentioned it in the podcast, too. Again, Trust the Podcast, last episode, episode 43, check it out. I believe it's August.
I think we should link it in the bio in the bio for this episode.
I believe
cross-reference.
I believe it's called the August cast, if I remember correctly. And again, the Bills' defense is good enough where they should be able to get you to 8 wins, 7-8 wins. But there will come a game where the Bills' defense will allow 20, 30 points, and Josh Allen's arm's going to have to win it for him. And if Josh Allen can be average
or
at
his
best,
legs.
Absolutely. So if he can be average at best, the Bills should be fine.
Here's what I would like to see, since I wasn't on that August cast of Trust the Podcast. Here's what I would like to see with Josh Allen. I would like to see Josh Allen not have to go to his legs, not have to resort to his legs like he did last season. And it was
the hero ball,
and it was explosive, and fans were getting behind it and was like, yeah, this kid's got it. But the problem with that is the mileage.
Absolutely.
If Josh Allen, because he's got a freaking cannon for an arm.
Yep.
If he works on his touch, yeah, absolutely, he will absolutely win you games. But I think what Bills fans need to understand is that this is still year 2 for Josh Allen, and so he needs to work on the kinks that he had from season 1. Is he going to be able to stay in the pocket more, or is he going to get skittish and try and
I mean,
move?
You get a lot of confidence in that offensive line because the Bills have completely retooled it, and I was feeling great. And then you see the joint practices today from Carolina where the 2 ends for the Panthers completely ate up Ty Nsekhe and Cody Ford, and there's a lot of work to be done still.
You're talking about practice.
But it's a good reminder.
You're talking about practice.
That you see the Bills' offensive line.
Not the game.
Exactly.
Not the game that they're going to play on Thursday.
You see the Bills' offensive line do great against the Colts, and you're like, wow, maybe they're going to make the playoffs. Then you go to practice, and you see them get eaten alive.
You can't judge anything off of week 1 of the friggin' preseason.
I'm saying, though, it's about
Daniel Jones would be starting quarterback, and he'd be winning the Super Bowl with the Giants.
The confidence.
Ay.
Because the worst, it doesn't matter if they're like, look at. Perfect example. You mentioned Daniel Jones. Pat Shurmur has to come out and go, Eli Manning's still the starting quarterback.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't, for the average fan, it doesn't matter. Preseason's preseason. But for guys like me and you, this is what we have to go off of in August.
I can't
because what else? Because what else? Like you know what? Jeremy White mentioned it on WGR this morning. It was a good point. He has his preseason pledge where he says, don't look too far into it, but there are things that you have to look at and kind of like he said with Antonio Brown in his helmet, stuff like that. You start off and you go, okay. You got to get the hot take machine. You got to get it fired up. You got to get the rust off. You got to kind of clear it out, run some fuel through it, get it working. So when the season rolls around, you're in top shape.
Right.
So right now it's, hey, the Bills' offensive line looks good week 1 against the Colts, but it's week 1 of the preseason. I'm sorry, against the Colts. They get eaten up in practice against the Panthers, but it's practice against the Panthers. It's August, but you have to have those discussions to kind of get the
you have to have those
discussions.
You have to have those discussions. Yes, and that's one thing.
But I'm not going to sit here and say Daniel Jones is going to win 15 games.
He's going to tear up the world, man.
Exactly. I'm not going to say that.
Tear up the world.
I'll say, yeah, he looked really good against whoever they played.
You know what else?
You know what?
You know what else is one thing I can say?
What's that?
Dallas Cowboys aren't going to win the Super Bowl.
You know what? I'm doubling down. Dallas Cowboys will not win the Super Bowl. We will time it 6:54, Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. The Dallas Cowboys. John, what will the Dallas Cowboys not do?
They will not win the Super Bowl.
And with that being said,
neither will the Miami Dolphins.
I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD. John is at
the JC Money
on Twitter. You can check us out, betterlivethandead.com, Apple Podcasts.
That's right.
Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, listen to this podcast. And as we always tell them, John, we are Better Live Than Dead.
You are not.
We will catch you sometime very soon.
Dallas Cowboys are not winning it.
Bye.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the GERE Network.
Welcome, everyone. This is Sleazy.
This is the Fat Man.
And the world-famous R-rated podcast is now on the GERE Network. The Wrestling Show with Sleazy and the Fat Man is classless and raunchy commentary on the wrestling business today. Our multiple hosts, including Sleazy the Fat Man, Chip Willett, and NEW owner Travis Kenning, give a differing take on news, rumors, reviews, and previews of the entirety of the worldwide pro wrestling market.
We do what we want, we say what we want, and we don't give a at all. That's just the way we go.
Check us out on the GERE Network.